Today, well, we're just asking, can you spot the difference between 3 different price points of Black Pro-Mist, Black Pro-Mist Magic? You get it. Black Pro-Mist, 1/8. Can you spot the difference? Is there even a reason to pay so much for one? Let's find out. All right, if you're familiar with video at all, you've probably heard of Promist filters. If you are not rocking one of these in your kit, I highly suggest you consider it. The reason why is that a lot of times when we're doing interviews, especially with young ladies or very rough looking men, we might want to add a little diffusion to help break up the light a little bit. It does help spread the highlights out. It wraps things around. Things get a little bit softer. Certainly if you're trying to chase that more cinematic look, you may want to consider that of a Promist filter. Now, having played with them over time, I don't like the look of quarter. I think it's too much. It reminds me of Mark Harmon in that TV show. Was it a CSI? One of those shows where Mark Harmon always looked really soft or porn, old school porn. If you're 40 plus, you know what I'm talking about. Now, the other side of that though, is that having one and having access to them doesn't mean you always have to use it, but it's great to have one. So today we're looking at this idea. Can a budget, which is a Cavision, can a budget Promist filter stand up against a mid-range filter, which is a Tokina Alchemist Black Pro-Mist, versus the good old-fashioned Tiffen? This has been in my kit for I don't know how many years, although a few have broken, but that's okay. We have those for it, and that's what we have. So again, we're looking at the Cavision 1/8, the Tokina Black Alchemy 1/8, and the classic Tiffen Black Pro-Mist 1/8. First thing we're gonna do is look at some charts. Now, not that this is that scientific, but looking at these charts, I can't even really spot anything, to be honest with you. There's not very much to it. The only thing I can spot is the price difference when we jump through. You may notice a little bit of shift on the moire. If you look at the very center chart, you may notice something there. You may be able to look in that middle and see that jump there. But again, the camera's not really changed. Maybe there's a little wobble from the matte box moving, but we didn't really adjust the camera. The camera stayed the same the entire time. Looking at them one more time. So this will be the 3rd time we're looking at these. I don't really notice anything. There's not a major shift. And so, yes, a scientific test. Sure, we had a chip chart and we shot it. This is, by the way, shot on a Zeiss CP50, a CP250, because as we established, very clinical lens. Wanted to show that the edges weren't crazy. So we looked at that one. Okay, not so much. Now, the challenge is we need to do something a bit more practical. So when we move into this next section, you have yours truly. Anyway, I plopped this up real quick. I purposely put this light bar behind my head so that we could see how the filters reacted. The camera was locked off. Nothing changed. F-stop was exactly the same. The ISO the same. By the way, we're at a 4:5:6 split. And nothing else changed. No bumping, nothing. So let's take a look at these. The first one up, going in order of price, as we've established, is the Cavision. There's that handsome devil. Look at it. I threw up the C so I'd remind myself it was the Cavision. Really pay attention, not so much to me, but how the highlight interacts with the back of my head and the general area. I think you'll see a big punch shift here when you notice on the Tokina. If you didn't pick up on it, don't worry, we'll show you some more. But you see how much more subtle the light bar is now. Now I'm trying to stand in the same spot. I tried to get as close as I could and get it pretty close. Now I will say the hardest difference to spot for me is when I start looking at this Tokina Black Alchemist 8th and then the Tiffen Promist. Now I can notice it. It's there, but I'm not necessarily saying it's the most obnoxiously potent thing you've ever seen. It's enough that I could probably watch it, get a better angle on it to understand it. So in order to do that, what I wanted to do next was show a wipe. So now we're gonna be zoomed in on the footage a pinch, and what we'll do is we'll actually take a look at, I'm sorry, we're not gonna zoom in. We're gonna take a look at the footage with a wipe to help show that reveal, and then I'll show you some zoomed in stuff. So one more time, we have the Cavision. Now we're gonna wipe to the Tokina so you can kind of see in real time, approximate placing. I noticed a color shift. I hope you guys do too. And then there's our Promist. That wipe went a little quick, but you get the idea. The Tokina and the Promist, very, very similar. That Cavision, pretty big difference. So the other thing I wanted to show is showing that light wrap. What I was talking about, how the highlights roll off. So what I've done is I've zoomed in on the light bar. I'm not in the frame at all. Zoomed in on the light bar, and I want you to pay very close attention. Now, these shots are not graded on purpose. This is ungraded, just so you can see what it looks like from a raw perspective. But let's take a look at how the Cavision and then the Blackmagic operate together. Here we go. Up first, Cavision, we can see it's got a blue hue to it, light spilling everywhere. Wow. Okay, so right off the gate, we have a huge difference. And then we go to the Tiffen, and the Tiffen seems just a little bit softer. Let's watch those again. So here's the Cavision. Clearly, it's very bright. The light is just, the disbursement is very broad. The color temperature changes if you didn't notice that. And then you go to the Tiffen where the highlights are more controlled, and I feel like the color, based on looking at log, is more accurate. You don't have as much bleed. Imagine our surprise when we have to go color grade this Cavision clip when it's so blue, and then knowing that we're gonna have a little bit of an adjustment inside the Tokina. It actually doesn't look like as much of a color issue in the Tokina as much as it is the amount of light that it's dispersing out, versus when you see the Tiffen, how much more controlled it is. That said, does that make that big of a difference, I guess? Does it really matter if the Tiffen and the Tokina, the subtlety is so small between the two? It's $100 difference, right? The Tokina is like $419 and the Tiffen is $509, so it's right about 100 bucks. The bigger difference being, like, we now know, for example, we can all blatantly see here as I play this clip up, we can blatantly see the Cavision is clearly blue. It's got a massive highlight push out, which is not necessarily a bad thing if you were trying to do something stylized. But if I were using this as an all-around general filter for my lenses, or as part of my kit, certainly one that might ride with me, yeah, I'm probably gonna pass on the Cavision, right? Don't even ask me why I have it. It was a whole long story. We'll maybe talk about it another time. If you look at the Black Pro-Mist from Tokina and the Promist from Tiffen, I see very little difference aside from the highlight roll-off. And it comes down to this: which filter would I buy? I'd probably buy another Tokina Black Alchemist 1/8. I don't mind how much light wrap it has. It's very, very, very negligible compared to that of the Tiffen. And for an extra 100 bucks, if you're talking about buying two of them, then it's another $200 maybe you can spend on something else fun, like I've talked about before, a lens rental or a piece of kit you might need. Maybe a CRD bag, just one, the smallest CRD bag, you might be able to get that. The other reason I'd stay away from the Cavision is these filters fit into a classic 5x6, 4x5.6, sorry, matte box. And so one of the challenges we have is the Tiffen and the Tokina, they fit perfectly. The Tiffen even has nice rounded edges, which is just a nice thing. So the difference though, this Cavision, just to show you guys why I would stay away from it, even though, again, if you're doing something stylized, okay, I've put it into the tray. You guys see it is in the tray. Watch. That should never happen. So if you're suddenly loading it in to the lens here, let's see if it'll get close enough to fix on that. Nah, it's gonna stick to my face. But if you can get it here, the fact that this falls out with so much ease, I mean, it's barely any thumb pressure, is not a good sign. That is not something you want to have happen when someone pulls the filter tray out, the filter hits the ground, you've already shot 4 scenes, you got 5 scenes to go. Not how you wanna do things. So I'd stay away from the Cavision unless you can afford to buy a slew of them, which essentially you could, price difference wise. But I still feel like it's a very stylized look to it, and it is something that I don't necessarily think everyone's gonna wanna be in that style. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for hanging out. More to come. If you like what you see, just hit that subscribe button. I'm not gonna beg, please, I'm not gonna do that at all. But I will say, we have more content coming, big lens test coming up after this, more things in the queue. If you like this kind of content, stick out, hang out. Don't stick out, stick around, hang out, there it is. Got it. Talk to you soon, later.